everybody, it's Professor Hall. This tutorial covers the step-by-step process for creating the final essay exam. Let's look at that PDF together. Okay, so the good news is that you've already chosen your image from the file of images, and if you change your mind, you can. It requires you to start all over again, but you can. I've done that too. So you've picked your image and you have opened some sort of document to jot down your notes as you brainstorm how this story is going to unfold. Remember that throughout this module there are tutorials and explanations for how you go about creating that story. This is the step-by-step instruction. So when you get to that instruction, you'll want to go through and study that material. Now you're going to open a document where you can research images and start a file. Let's take a second and look at this images situation. What you want to do is make a concerted effort to cite all of the images that you find. So to do that, let's go to EasyBib together. When I log into EasyBib with my free account, I'm going to be taken to my projects. I'm going to create a new project and I'm going to label it Dragon Story because I have chosen this dragon image to create my narrative. Right, so I am going to look for images that are this same color scheme, and what I need to do is I need to find a protagonist. The picture that I have chosen indicates that this dragon has stolen this treasure, which makes me wonder, who did this dragon steal the treasure from? That means I need to find some characters to fill in this world of the story so I can create a narrative that exposes this dragon for stealing this treasure. So now I need to find a protagonist, a lead for the story, and I'm going to go to Google. Let's go together. To find my character, I typed into Google dragon, looked at images, and I'm going to scroll through and I'm going to find an image that speaks to me, that makes me think that that is the protagonist, the dragon from whom that treasure was stolen. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to find, now this won't work because it's not like the picture that I chose. So this is not going to work. You can see that. Yes, this isn't going to work because it just doesn't make any sense. This is not going to work because it's a cartoon picture and I've chosen a very different kind of an image, so I want to make sure everything I pick is uniform with that image. So of the things that I've seen, this one won't work. It's pretty, but it doesn't work. That doesn't work because once again my image looks like this, so my protagonist needs to look like it would fit in this world of the story, or motif as it's called. So you tell me why this image would not work. Yes, you're right. Now let's go on and find one that does work. I'm going with this one. I like it. I think I can build a story around that. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to search Google for that image, and it's going to find the image, and when it does, I'm going to go up to the URL bar. I'm going to copy the URL, go over to EasyBib. This is my project, and I'm going to paste that URL in here. I'm going to cite it. It's going to think about it a minute, and I'm going to continue the final step. This doesn't have a title author, but it's dragon wallpaper, so I'm going to name it. And I'm going to create the citation. And that adds this citation to my bibliography. Yes? And I'm going to do that through the whole process of researching this essay, because I need to research the elements of my essay. If a clue was found or something about the world of the story, I need to research it, and I'm going to add it just like that to this bibliography that I'm creating, otherwise known as an MLA 8 citation. Yes? Back to the step-by-step instructions. So now I've got an idea of my story. I've got some images located. I've already cited them, so that's going to be great at the end of the process to already have that work done, so I'm not in a panic at the end of the story. So I'm going to work on my synopsis, and that is about 150 words that I'm going to write that explains the world of the story. What happens? Now, we know that every single story begins in one of two ways. Either everything was fine until, or everything was awful until. And when you go through this module, you'll find more information about how to create this synopsis for the story. But this is one of the steps. This is step 5, is to create that. Now, I've included a couple of synopses that I wrote. You don't have to use that. You can look in anything you want to look in. I just gave you that as something to see. All right. After I have created that synopsis that explains what happens in my story, now it's time to divide that synopsis up into chapters. What happens in the first chapter? Does it describe the world and everything was wonderful? And then chapter 2 is where something horrible happens? Or whatever is going on. Remember, a crime has been committed, and there is evidence when a crime is committed, and your job is to show logically how the evidence is found and used and whatever your story includes. And again, through the module I have examples. I walk through the process with you, so everything's laid out for you so that you can create your own fictional narrative. But we're now dividing everything up into chapters. And once I have my chapters, then I can outline what happens in each chapter. And that outline is what you are going to submit with your final essay. I don't need the synopsis. I don't need any of the other notes. What I need is the outline. Now, I like to write an outline by hand sometimes. I just do. And if I do that, then I need to write it out neatly and legibly, and then I'm going to scan it and I'm going to submit it with my final essay. Lots of people like to organize their essays on the computer, and that'll be super easy. You just copy and paste that outline into the computer. And there again is a document in this study module that shows you how to create the document, and I walked through it in that example. But remember that this outline is what is going to be submitted at the end of the project. Now you're going to get that image folder that we created, that we just went through, and I've got several images in there. One that's the world of the story and other characters and clues and evidence, all kinds of images. And now I'm going to decide where those images go. I don't want them all in one chapter, so I'm going to decide where each image goes. And that's going to show me in the chapter outline where I need an image that I don't have. It's a wonderful process. It's one of my favorite parts of this process is finding the images and placing them and seeing in my chapter synopsis, oh gosh, I need to get an image here because the reader's not going to know what I'm talking about. Remember, an image can speak 1,000 words. Now I'm going to write the rough draft, and there's instructions in the module about writing a rough draft. And I'm going to read that draft to myself, and I'm going to fix all the errors. I'm going to see a lot of errors. Oh my gosh, lots of errors. And I'm going to fix those. And I'm going to polish that first draft. Now I have the second draft. I'm going to create my works cited page, and let's go over real quickly how to do that. There are tutorials about creating EasyBib perfect works cited pages, but let's look at it here real quick. Let's go back over to EasyBib. Here I am back over in EasyBib, and you know that by now I'm going to have a long list of citations. I'm going to cite the images, I'm going to cite research information, and because this is a creative writing essay project, I can actually use a little bit of Wikipedia if I need to. It's preferable if I use vetted sources, but I'm writing a fiction. I'm writing something that's already make-believe, so I can use whatever sources. So after I've finished all my sources, then I'm going to select all, export, print as a Word doc. Now, I've had some students come back to me before and say they don't have Word documents because they're on a Mac or something. But you know, I think Word comes with Outlook, with your EDU email address. I think you can get Outlook that way and get Word that way. And whenever I do that, it's going to open up as a Word document. See how pretty that is? It did the whole thing for me. Then I'm going to click Edit, Enable Editing, so that I can copy this and paste it into at the end of my essay. But it's going to have lots of other citations on it too. Now let's look and see what happens if I save it as a Google Doc. Let's go back to EasyBib. Once again, we go to our project, we look at all of our long citations, we select all, and we export, save to Google Docs. And let's see what happens. I saved it there. It says go to Google Docs. And there it shows up in Google Docs, and it's perfect. Now remember, if it shows up in any format besides this, it's wrong. MLA8 will never show a hyperlink. It will not include numbers or highlights or anything. So be sure your works cited page shows like this, all double-spaced, indented properly, and so forth. That's an unnecessary loss of points. So make sure that you have that correctly formatted. Let's go back to the step-by-step instructions. So I have my works cited added. I'm almost down to the bottom of this step-by-step process. And I've put in my images where they go, and I've made it all pretty. And I look back over the outline and add to the top of the document. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find somebody to read my essay to. Somebody owes me a favor. And I'm going to read them my essay, and they're going to tell me what doesn't make sense. Because see, I wrote this, so to me everything makes perfect sense. But the reader might be confused. So if I do this step, if I read it to somebody out loud and they find all the problems for me, I can go back and fix that before I turn in the final essay. I'm going to calculate the words, the counts, and there's a whole tutorial on word count, so you can refer to that. I'm going to make sure all the images are the same color scheme, the same size. If one is black and white, they're all black and white. If one is vibrant color, they're all vibrant color. If I outlined one with a little black outline, they all are outlined like that. You want it to look like a novel when it's through, like a beautiful written novel. Now I've done all these steps. Let's go back to the module and see what I do next. I go back over to the final exam module, and I scroll down to the very bottom, and that is where I submit my document, which I have saved as a beautiful PDF. Now, if I hand wrote the outline, that may or may not have been able to add to my document, and it's okay if you have to submit that separately. But hopefully that, and it has in the past, students will add that outline whenever they when they scan the document, and it's always worked. Because what you want to create is one long PDF. Canvas is much happier if you create one long document rather than trying to download and upload and submit a bunch of different documents. So that's the step-by-step process for this essay, and as you go through the module, you'll see individual explanations for all the steps of the process. This is going to be so much fun. I don't think there's anything more exciting than creating a piece of fiction that demonstrates logic and all kinds of wonderful abilities and skills. This is going to be a great journey. Enjoy it, and that is the conclusion of this tutorial over the step-by-step instructions for the final essay.